Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. It has been a long while since I have done a live. So bear with me. Also, thank you for joining in last minute. Like I literally announced this a few minutes ago. So those of you guys who are around and available, thank you for joining me. We will see how long this goes. I have a little bit of information I want to share, present to you guys. If I get enough support, I will open up the call lines so we can kind of have a larger discussion. If not, then I'll shut things off once I finish my presentation. So, anyways, I wanted to follow up real quick on the conversation we had a little earlier where, you know, I did that response to the Miss Pink Pill. For those of you guys who don't know, this is Crystalline Karazin, who, in my estimation, is, really I want to say the mother, or at least one of the first content creators to take the whole swirling and divesting thing digitally online. She's been dedicated to that work, Black women expanding their options for years. And so, as I mentioned, she got response. She had caught wind of one of my videos, did a response to it. I did a response to her response, which is what I shared a few days ago. But the way this whole conversation started was based upon this topic on white men empowering Black women, and I did a video on that also maybe about 2 months ago now, which really piggybacked or just really jump started this whole conversation. And I think that's relevant because we want to think about this in context of all the things that are going on today, right? Not only just in the USA, but really worldwide. And it's really important to understand not only what these conversations means, but I think the implications, what could be driving it, what could be influencing it, and then what could this actually mean? So, but first off, I want to play back real quick the video I did about 2 months ago, where it was, I kind of was teasing out this question on whether or not Black women dating out, marrying out is a level up, or it's them basically improving their lifestyle, right? And so that is the video that kind of jump started this whole conversation. I'm going to play that for you guys real quick. I'll probably like double the speed or quicken up the speed so you guys can get a sense. And then from there, I want to show you guys a few other things that I want to share with you guys. So let me pull that up. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe on the way in. Or share your comments, and then let me pull this up real quick, and then I can review it for any of you guys who have not actually had a chance to see the original. Okay, I think it is this one. Okay, so it's this one that I did, right? It's Black woman says dating white men is empowering for this reason. So I posted this about 2 months ago. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna try to speed it up a bit so you guys can get the gist. But again, I want you guys to be aware. I kind of break down or lay a foundation as to really teasing out this particular question or this statement that Black women are being empowered by dating white men. And to be clear, I didn't just make this stuff up. Y'all saw the thumbnail. Y'all saw the thumbnail of my this whole live. You see the thumbnail? I did that on purpose, right? Scandal. I never watched it, but that thing was like, I think it won Emmys or something. I think it won like multiple awards. Scandal was an incredibly powerful or an incredibly popular show that was all based upon a Black woman basically being a mistress to Mr. President. I mean, if I can't think of just a glaring example in modern day media of a Black woman expanding her options, leveling up by dating and marrying a white man, I don't know what else is a better example of that. But anyway, so I'm gonna play this for you guys, and then we can keep it pushing. Again, like on the way in, and we'll go from there. Things about the internet is its ability to expose many of those thoughts, beliefs, and ideas that have gone under the radar for years, maybe even decades. It puts it all on public display for the entire world to grapple with. In the age of anonymity, where people can go online and hide their face and their name and say whatever they want without fear of punishment, that gives people a boldness to speak from their heart, to speak what they really feel without fear of any retribution. Because of that component of the internet, we are now seeing a side of the human psychology and, quite frankly, a side of humanity that has always been there, but now we're faced to grapple with. We see the same thing in the Black community when there are people who reveal things, who confess things that, quite frankly, aren't new and have always been there, but have never fully been addressed because no one's been willing to call it out. And that is actually what I appreciate about this tweet that I want to share with you, right? It's a lovely Black woman who was just honest about how she feels. And I want to read it to you. It says, "I used to be afraid to admit this as a Black person, but not anymore. When I see a Black man date a white woman, it gives weak in my head because I start to question, can you handle a Black woman? But when I see a Black woman date a white man, it gives women's empowerment." Very simple. She didn't say a lot, but she reveals so much. Now, a couple of things I want to tease out here. What she said is nothing new. Even if you look at the tweet, right? You look at the response here. I think it's Bean Men who reposted it. It says, "Are we surprised at this point? No, we're not." She's just saying, finally, what we have all known to be true for a very, 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 very long time. We saw Candace Owens give a similar explanation as to why she decided to date and marry out. Not because she just happened to fall in love with the guy, not just because maybe it was just a proximity thing, whatever. It's like, oh no, because he had higher IQ. Oh, because he had a better position, a better standing, he was of a better stock, right? Going back to this idea that marrying white is you leveling up, it is you improving yourself, it is you divesting out of a bad community to invest into that which is good and powerful and meaningful. These ideas are nothing new. We've seen this with the divestor community, right? I've seen this in internet clips. Y'all, we've all seen this before. This is, like I said, wash, rinse, repeat. While people want to act like this is some surprising new phenomenon that's only happened within the last couple of decades, the reality is this mindset has been in existence for hundreds of years. In the book, The Dating Divide, the authors give different theories as to why it appears that minority women, including Black women, show a preference for white men. And one of the theories is that they do it as an assimilation tactic, right? This belief that in marrying white and marrying into the dominant class, they will essentially be able to receive perhaps, more access to resources, a better social standing, and ultimately a more comfortable life, right? So this is one of the theories that the dating divide gives as to why they consistently see minority women all have this preference for white men. And, going with that theory real quick, we have actual historical evidence to further reiterate this point. Going all the way back to slavery, we see that there is a history of African women and even Black women within the United States who slept with white men, and some of them who even married white men, as a way to, quote unquote, be empowered and level up.
Boarding passes?
Check.
IDs?
Check.
Kids?
And gain resources at the expense of their own people. Take, for example, slave owner Fenda Lawrence. She was an African woman who married a European man and created mixed mulatto kids who ended up being integral in slave trading. Fenda Lawrence was so popular as a slave owner, she actually went to the United States of America and toured the plantations in the United States of America as a free Black woman. She toured the plantations, and to my understanding, she actually lived there for some time, and she partnered with white men and even had white men vouch for her on her behalf while she was living in a time of slavery in America, so that she herself would not get caught up. This is a Black woman, right? Partnering with white men in a society to be empowered, to be protected, to gain the resources of the trade at that time, which happened to be Black bodies, right? To level up. So history shows us that there's always been a mindset of women who believe that in partnering with white men and partnering with white society, they can themselves level up, i.e. gain more resources, i.e. get more access to money, more access to funds, even if it is at the expense of their own people. This mindset has been here for a couple of hundreds of years. Professor Joseph E. Holloway, who's authored many books, Professor and author Joseph E. Holloway also shows that about 70% of the Black slave owners in the United States of America, about 70% of them were light-skinned mixed mulatto women who had a Black mother and a white father. And what that means is that the majority of those Black people who, quote unquote, did own slaves inherited those slaves from their white slave owning fathers. Right. So again, I want to paint a picture to you that while we see these things continuing today, these viral tweets, the divestor moment, the divestor movement, the swirl movement, the level up movement, hypergamy, whatever, we kind of see all these ideas repackaged and remarketed. They are coming from the same root. Like I said, this mindset has been going on for hundreds of years. It just reinforces itself. It reinvents itself in these different movements. It tries to represent itself as something fresh and new, but it's not. And hear me. I don't think the nature of dating out means that you are necessarily trying to do something egregious to your own people. But what I am saying, to associate whiteness with empowerment as a Black woman is nothing new. These different movements that we see happening online in the social media space and, all these viral clips and, oh my gosh, she said this, she did this. If you know even just an ounce of history, you would understand that these things aren't new. But the reason that they can continue and the reason Black women can go online and say these outlandish things, but think it's like new or think it's empowering or think it's like a new, never seen before phenomenon is because there's a misunderstanding of history. And because there has not been a willingness to scrutinize Black women with the same level Black men have been scrutinized. In my opinion, I think we feel really comfortable as Black people looking at the transgressions of Black men, where they failed, where they didn't do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. We feel very comfortable doing that and then holding them to task, right? Basically telling them all the things that they need to be doing. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But that same level of scrutiny has not been given to Black women. The reason I believe Black women in particular can go online and say things that if the roles were reversed would be considered tuning, would be considered self-hating, would be considered you being Uncle Tom. The reason Black women can go online and say that and get little to no pushback is because there has not been the same level of scrutiny placed on Black women as there has been on Black men when it comes to having a cultural understanding. I believe if Black people, Black men and Black women understood not only what they were saying, but understood the ramifications of what they were saying and understood the history associated with interracial relationships, they would be less inclined to pedestalize it. Again, I'm not saying that it's wrong if you decide to date and marry out, but if you're a Black woman and you understand that the relationship between white men and Black women many times resulted in enslavement and the slavery of your people, if you understood that that was a direct link, right, that many of the slave traders were the results of Black African women who collaborated with European men to create a
mulatto slave trading class, if you knew that relationship was integral to the slavery and that without it, slavery would not have been nearly as successful, you might be less inclined to pedestalize it. You might just see it as any other relationship. But unfortunately, because these women really don't know history, and then secondly, because this relationship and the connection between black women and white men, what it meant historically, right? Some of the different issues that arose from it historically and the way that it was used to terrorize their people historically, because that has never ever really been addressed, these things can continue. These things can continue, these ideas and these beliefs can remain without any pushback. And quite frankly, I think that's dangerous, because what she's saying, in my opinion, is not coming from a true place. It's coming from a place of narrative. It's coming from a place of miseducation. It's coming from a place of misunderstanding. It's not coming from a true place. Because now, when you're explaining black and white, you're explaining it from a social political standpoint. You're not saying, oh, this is a loving man, that's a loving man. You're saying whiteness means this, blackness means that. This is essentially what she's alluding to. So I just wanted to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, these ideas and concepts are nothing new. They have been around for hundreds of years. We just haven't always had a chance to catch these beliefs or capture these beliefs in real time. But now we do. And the great thing about it is, because we do, we can actually address it for what it is, address it straight on. And I would encourage you, ladies, the next time you are tempted to try to pedestalize a relationship, especially in a interracial relationship, remember how it started. Remember what that meant for you and your people. I'm not saying that you can't have an interracial relationship, but I want you to recognize that historically, those relationships were not always good. In fact, those relationships were actually integral and key to the enslavement of your ancestors. So let's not get ahead and let's not pedestalize something. Just take the relationship for what it is. And also, let's try to be consistent. Let's not give ourselves a pass and at the same time judgment for doing the same thing. I don't think that's fair. Anyways, guys, that's what I think. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.
All right, guys. So I wanted to share that real quick again to give you guys some context of just how this whole conversation started. Now, the reason a couple of things. Let me reiterate, because I oftentimes will be, I think, mischaracterized or accused of something that's not true. Let me reiterate. I don't automatically hate or dislike or disparage or disagree with somebody just because they have decided to date or marry outside of the race. I have no problem with that. I feel like if there was two loving, consenting adults who respect each other, love each other, value each other as humans, or whatever, like I see nothing wrong with that. What a lot of times we see being promoted online or talked about online or just promoted in general to the masses is not that. It is not true love. It is not mutual respect. It is just the same old media brainwashing, in my opinion. The same old pedestalization of white men, or just it's these old modern tropes, these old stereotypes repackaged in modern form. And because we live in, black folks are largely traumatized, black folks are largely miseducated or undereducated or whatever, and they have little to no understanding of history, especially black women, these ideas can be thrown around like it's no big deal, and there's no understanding, like there's no historical correlation. And so, when we're talking about interracial relationships, the fact that I even have to have a conversation as to whether or not white men are empowering black women, whether or not marrying a white man is a level up, the fact that we even need to have this conversation, to me, is really reflective of just how really low or just how dull the understanding is of the current population. I'm not saying this is everybody, right? I'm not saying this is every woman or every situation, but I'm just saying these ideas that have the power to even infiltrate the black community, the fact that they can, speaks to, in my understanding, just a low level of understanding. Again, miseducation, lack of history, not understanding, just not getting stuff. And so you have women, I really believe you have older women, young women coming of age who are just, they are just like so primed and so ready to be lied to just have all this brainwashing, whether it be through media, whether it be through television, through TikTok, about how great, it is when you date out, or how perfect it is. Like, people go online all the time and lie. They just do it all the time. You never hear anybody going and talking to you about not only how dangerous relationships are today in general, but the different risks associated with dating out. You don't hear that. You just don't. People act like we live in a society in America where racism is like died like 200-300 years ago. Meanwhile, you continue to have people like, what is her name? Sade Johnson. God bless her. You have the Asia Mainers, you have the Lauren Smith Fields. We have these situations pop up, but nobody wants to sit here and talk to these ladies and say, hey, what is going on that is encouraging these ladies to be in situations a lot of times that are just like, if you were just in a safer place, if you did not put yourself in that situation, then that maybe that person would have not even had the opportunity to do that. Because what I think happens sometimes is, unfortunately, because we have these ideas going around where it's like, okay, leveling up, I'm going to date out, I'm going to expand my options. And like, there's this sense of novelty or this sense of excitement with dating somebody outside of your culture, because you got women sometimes who are doing that. And they didn't have a parent, they didn't have a grandma or a daddy or somebody go and tell them and say, hey, you can do it if you want, but be really clear, have some clear boundaries. Like, don't go to a person's apartment on the first date. Like, don't have this dude pick you up and drive you to the middle of the forest on the first date. You know what I mean? Like, just like things that an adult or a parent or somebody in the family would help school these ladies. It's like these women are just going online and being influenced by these like viral TikTok couples. Y'all done seen, I mean, there's a ton of viral TikTok couples. You go and you see that stuff, you think it's cute, and you want to try it out. And completely unaware of what's going on socially in this nation, of what's going on politically, like what's actually driving people. And it's just like, I feel like so many women are just, it's like they're just fresh meat, they're fresh prey. I don't know how else to say it. So let it be clear, I have no problem with interracial relationships. I think if it's among two consenting adults, no problem with it. Why I bring this up is because I don't really see anywhere else. Maybe Crimson Kira, I like her, channel. She's probably the only one I think who's like, I think is the, actively talks about some of the challenges associated with dating out. But by and large, you don't really see anybody being like, hey, there are risks associated with dating today now, and there are certainly risks associated with dating out. And you don't see people talking about racism that impacts Black women, not within the context of relationship. Really, the only thing I see is folks complaining about, you have articles coming out like Black women who are upset because, oh, they're not getting matches on Hinge, or oh, they're not getting matches on Tinder, oh, this and that. I'm just like, you can't force other races of men to be into you. Like, you can't force Asian men or white men to find you more attractive. Like, I'm sorry. But it's like, I don't know, it just gets annoying. It's like, why are we not talking about the obvious? 50, 60 years ago, your mom, your grandma, your auntie would have told you, excuse you, this is a reality. And people like to act like because we have a couple of more swirler movies, or we have a couple of more movies or situations of people of different races coming together, that things have automatically changed and people's mindset has changed. And it hasn't. People today are still just as interested in being race loyal. They're still interested in that. A lot of them are. But anyway, so I wanted to clarify that I have no problem with interracial relationships. The problem I have is the fact that we act like sometimes when we're having these conversations, or sometimes when I see interracial relationships being portrayed as a better option, nobody's ever talking about race, ever. No one ever, I mean, outside of, oh, you're different cultures. Like, we're not also talking about the risks associated with racism and what that can mean for a Black woman. If she's out here trying to date or just even not date, do things casually, and you run into a racist, like, what could that mean? Like, I don't hear people talking about it. And then folks end up missing. Like, it's serious. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to say that. Also, guys, if you're here, like on the way in, like, share, subscribe. If you like what this channel is about, as always, you can share support on the Cash App. Shout out to you, Sovereign Force, for the 5 on the Cash App. I appreciate you. I know you were a consistent supporter, so thank you so much. You guys, if you like what this channel is about, y'all know the group. Like, support the people you like. That's how this goes. Cash App, Venmo, or you also can become a channel member, and you can receive exclusive content. You can receive access to videos and lives and stuff that the public does not have. You can do so there for as little as like $5 a month. So that is the best way to show that you love and to appreciate my work, and appreciate I do, is through actually supporting it. Okay, so I just wanted to say that real quick. Second thing, so going back to this history of white men empowering Black women, historically, the relationship between white men and Black women has been exploitative. I mean, there's I don't know how else to say that other than just say it for what it is. Historically, it's been exploitative. That does not mean that there are not white men and black men in loving relationships. That doesn't mean that every white man out there is trying to go and exploit black women. Like, I don't believe that's true at all. If we're talking about trends, right? And if we're understanding trends, if we're understanding like what happened in American culture, the relationship between white men and black women has been exploitative as a result of imperialism, colonization, like that. Like, this is not debatable. So again, going back to how do you understand that history, and then even think that marrying a white man is a level up? Like, how do you even come to that question? How can you literally understand that up to this point, and even today, the relationship between even white nations and black nations is largely exploitative? How can you fully understand that and then think that dating a white person automatically is a level up? Like, to me, like, the logic isn't there. So again, this speaks to, in my understanding, just a lack of understanding of what's going on, a lack of history, maybe even some self-hatred. That is what I am thinking. But I wanted to be clear that it's not like that was just happening then. This is another thing that came up with the video that was, Kristen Harrison. Another reason I talk about this a lot is because we're acting like this happened like 200-300 years ago and it just ended. Like, we're acting like, okay, that was then, but today everything's kumbaya and nobody hates each other, nobody's racist. And there aren't just like racism isn't a thing. Like, we're acting like all this stuff was hecka long ago. Meanwhile, you have things happening today, to this day, where black women are being exploited in mass numbers. And this is what I want to bring up. This is what I want to show you guys next. Because again, I'm talking about this not because I'm trying to fearmonger, not because I want anybody who is currently in an interracial relationship to feel horrible. No, like I said, if you find somebody who really loves you, I have no issues. My issue is the way that folks like to gaslight and act like these things still don't happen. And then women go up here and do things that are really ignorant, or they go up here and start pedalizing white people because they don't like themselves and end up missing. That's what I'm talking about. So let me pull this up real quickly. Here's another example of not just this stuff just is like, oh, this is a couple hundred years ago. This is something I saw that is happening today. Let me pull this up. Also, guys, if you're here, y'all know the joke. Like, share, subscribe. Okay, guys, bear with me. I had this thing up and then I think it where did you go? Where did you go? Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. Let's go.
A mixed race girl in rural Kenya.
Okay, so this like went viral. I mean, I think this was actually the CNN did. But this one, I'm gonna share it with you guys real quick, and then we can go from there.
She's just 17, but Marian lives alone in this single room house. A mixed race girl in rural Kenya where nobody looks like her.
They actually call me poor white girl. I don't know why they call me poor white girl. They always say, why are you here? Just look for a connection that you will go to your own people. You don't belong in here.
Marian's mother, Lydia Juma, was among hundreds of women who accused soldiers from the British Army Training Unit Kenya, Batuk, of rape. She was interviewed in this 2011 documentary.
Because in our tribe, we can't report that thing. It's a big shame if you go and say that you have been raped.
Lydia Juma died 2 years after that interview, and Marian has never met her father. She has to fend for herself in a society that ostracizes her.
You have not lost hope of finding your father someday?
No, I've never lost hope.
Mixed race children keep being born in the remote villages where the British Army trains in Kenya.
Okay, can I just say this real quick? We're not even done. Can I just say this real quick? Let me say this real quick. How y'all know this whole narrative of like black men are the most deadbeats, right? Like they're deadbeat dads, yada yada yada. You got a whole country, okay, or at least a whole ethnic group in the country complaining that the dads aren't there because they are being violated, and then these deadbeat dads are just like they're not there. You got a whole country. This is British soldiers going out here violating these Kenyan women, leaving these babies with no daddy. But isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy? This whole deadbeat dad situation is almost always applied to Black men. It is never really ever applied to other men, generally, right? I mean, we know that. Yeah, everybody knows that there's white men out there. There's a white men here or there that can be deadbeat. But as far as we're talking about general trends, like Black men have the reputation of being deadbeat dads, not white men. But y'all, isn't this crazy? You have like this entire situation. Like this is an entire population of mixed race kids who don't have a dad around. And this was a lot of these women came forward. I think they said there was over 2,000 women who came forward and said that they against their will, they against their will were forced to do sexual things. I don't know. I thought that was just crazy. Let me continue.
Generica Namoru says she was in a consensual relationship with a British soldier while she worked at their base, but she claims he has never supported her since she gave birth.
I'm a woman with a white child. It's not easy for my family, especially because a child is expensive. She's suffering for no good reason.
So you just want him to take responsibility for his daughter?
Yeah, nothing else. For him, I want him to take care of the education, health.
Have you ever received a cent from him since she was born?
I've never received any cent.
Generica is jobless and says she has unsuccessfully tried to petition local authorities and the British Army to find her ex-boyfriend. The British High Commission told CNN it cooperates with local child support authorities in paternity claims. But the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says the UK government has made no effort to hold soldiers accountable in such cases.
These children really deserve British citizenship. They're British kids. Their fathers were British.
So the British government is just not interested in resolving these cases?
We don't think they are interested. We call it BBBB, British boys behaving badly.
The UK pays Kenya about $400,000 a year to allow up to 10,000 British soldiers to train in the country. Kenya renewed the 5-year deal in 2021 despite opposition from some local groups, lawmakers, and human rights defenders.
We have also had cases where these women and people who have reported have been intimidated. So there is a conspiracy to make sure that justice does not happen for these women.
Allegations of rape and other crimes, including murder, by British soldiers in Kenya date back to the 1950s. These elderly women accused Batuk officers of rape in the 70s and 80s in a landmark case in London over 20 years ago. Ntoye Lenkanan says she was one of them.
I was going to fetch water when I was ambushed by a group of British soldiers who were hiding in the grass near the river. One of them grabbed me and raped me.
In 2007, Britain's Ministry of Defense dismissed over 2,000 claims of rape from mostly Maasai and Samburu women, saying, quote, there was no reliable evidence to support any single allegation. The government in Nairobi lost the case files without explanation. A Royal Military Police investigation concluded that most of the Kenyan evidence appeared to have been fabricated. One Kenyan official called it a cover-up. They did not conduct DNA tests on any of the 69 mixed-race children alleged to have been born as a result of rape by British soldiers. Lawyer Kelvin Kubai is working to reintroduce the case in Kenyan courts. 17-year-old Marian will be the lead plaintiff, taking up a fight her mother didn't win in her lifetime.
It is traumatic and it's psychologically disturbing to people like Marian and many others who continue to see the British training amidst them with all these unresolved trauma and historical injustices.
Larry Medowo, CNN, Nanyuki, Kenya.
And the British High Commission told CNN that it takes all allegations raised by the community seriously and it ensures thorough investigations. It added that all sexual activity which involves the abuse of power is prohibited.
So, okay. So I wanted to bring that up. Like I said, really, really, really sad story. I'm praying all those women get justice. You saw that one mixed race, young mixed race woman, looks like she's what, maybe late teens, early 20s. Her mom is in there. She doesn't know her dad. She's fending for herself. And she represents one of many mixed race Black children in Kenya right now who do not know their father. Now, many of the women, I think there was, like I said, over 2,000, I think almost 3,000 cases of different Kenyan women who said that British soldiers forced themselves on them. All of those cases were dismissed, and none of the kids, as you saw in the video, were given DNA evidence to see if it traced back to any of the soldiers. Like, they just completely dismissed it. Now, you did have that one Kenyan woman who acknowledged that she was in a consensual relationship with a British soldier, but as soon as she got pregnant, he walked away. He just And so what this is meaning is you have all these single women who are struggling with kids who don't really fit into the culture, and these kids who don't have a dad. So again, going back to this original question, white men empowering Black women, I'm like, unfortunately, the relationship, I'm talking historically. If we're talking, politically, nation to nation has been one of exploitation. There's really no, I don't like, I don't know how to say that in a way that's pretty or that's like not as offensive, but unfortunately, it has been. That's just the history of it. Again, that doesn't mean that that's every person. But I'm like, this is why when I see these things talked about, and we like completely brush over the fact that there's this kind of dark history to it. Do y'all see how that can really create a dangerous dynamic? One where either you have, like I said, in instance, you have Black women who are maybe self-hating, or maybe they come from a people where they're just so used to being exploited that they look to white people to kind of save them from their issues, right? Or one where you have white men who maybe they don't respect Black women and they just want to take advantage of them, right? Like, you can have those scenarios. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. There are people who really find true love. But I'm saying, like, if we're not honest about the implications and what that has meant historically, then it can be really easy for people to kind of fall in these traps. And then you have exactly what I just showed you, right? So anyways, guys, like, share, subscribe on the way in. Now, one more thing I wanted to show you guys as I were really kind of wrapping up this, or, as I'm teasing out really this whole topic of white men empowering Black women. So as I said, as a quick recap, I have no problem with interracial relationships in and of themselves. If it's based upon true love, mutual respect, I have no issues with it. The issues I have is how a lot of times when it's being promoted online or in media, nobody's talking about the reality, and people aren't actually bringing up racism, which still exists. One. Two, let's also be honest about the history of the relationship between white men and Black women, which has historically been exploitative. That's just the history. Doesn't mean that's every person. Doesn't mean that's every situation, but that's the history of it. And three, also, by the way, this exploitation is still going on today. And I just showed you an example. Now, for those of you who say, oh, okay, well, that's Kenya. This doesn't necessarily apply to what's going on to the Black community in America. If that's what you believe, here's some other information I would like to share with you guys to help maybe cause you to rethink exactly what I mean. So let's talk a little bit about sex trafficking. This is another kind of like elephant in the room that is not necessarily always talked about. I actually just met someone who dedicated her work to dealing with sex trafficking, and so I'm hoping to bring her on maybe in a month or two to kind of dig deeply. But I want to talk about this because this is happening today. For those of you who say, oh, this is slavery a couple of hundred years ago, if you know anything about the 13th Amendment, you would completely bite your tongue. But even if you don't, we have to look at sex trafficking and how this disproportionately affects Black people, primarily Black women. So here's just a few little stats that I want to share with you guys. It says Black women and girls sex trafficking in the US. And again, this is all kind of centered around this topic of white men empowering Black women. Is this true or is this false? Hey, what's going on, Malarkey? It's so good to see you. It says, nice to see you back doing live, Sister Shay. Happy to donate as we should all be. Thank you to my favorite creator after so many months away. Like, share, and donate. The sister's working. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for Larky. I really, really appreciate it. Again, guys, y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, support your favorite content creators. That is actually what keeps us going. Okay, so I wanted to go over this because, again, this is going to provide some context. I'm not just like making this stuff up, and I'm not just fear mongering. Okay. So it says, okay, so here's a quick overview for you guys. It says, to better understand the high rate of sex trafficking among Black women and girls, research has indicated that the continued sexualization of Black women and girls' bodies, which has played out since slavery. So again, what I'm saying, this didn't just like happen a couple hundred years ago and then it's like, oh, we're done now. This is still happening. Okay. It says, in addition, the intersection factors like low socioeconomic status, child welfare involvement, detachment from education, criminal justice involvement, and history of physical sexual abuse must be addressed. These factors contribute to the increased vulnerability of sex trafficking compared to their racial counterparts. Black women and girls suffer higher rates of these combined factors. So now, again, let me just be clear. This particular study is focusing on Black women. I would like to get some more stats on Black men. I'm hoping once I meet with the woman who was in shelter, I can get more stats on that. Because I know it also impacts Black boys and Black men, right? I don't have the stats on that, but I'm hoping I can get some more on that. So here's just a quick overview. It says sex trafficking. Compared to their racial counterparts, Black girls are more likely to be trafficked at a younger age. It says, according to the FBI, 57.5% of juvenile prostitution arrests are Black children. So that is, again, the majority. Although Black people make up a minority, the majority of them are involved in juvenile prostitution. It says 40% of sex trafficking victims were identified as Black women. This is through a 2-year review. Another one, it says, in an interview with the Urban Institute, traffickers admittedly believe that trafficking Black women would land them less jail time than trafficking white women if caught. So basically, these people are saying Black women are a higher target for sex trafficking because these traffickers believe that they will not be scrutinized or penalized if they mistreat Black women the same way they would be if they were to mistreat a white woman. Isn't that crazy? So they admitted to that. So another thing that obviously impacts us, socioeconomic, more Black girls, they're at a higher likely to experience poverty, closely related to single parent households. Traffickers tend to target individuals with Black women with a low socioeconomic status. So again, I want to say it's about 1/3. I'd have to go back, but a significant amount of Black people currently live in poverty. Many of them Black women, many of them Black single mothers. There is a connection between single parenthood and poverty. Because due to employment, debt, and need to provide themselves and their children, many victims are less likely to leave the situation to make ends meet. And so they target young Black girls who are oftentimes already in a really tough spot. They grew up in poverty, or their parent is not necessarily the most financially stable. Then they get targeted, usually by somebody who's promising them some financial security. And then they feel stuck in this lifestyle that they don't want, but they don't see a way of getting out. Some more information. It says sexual abuse and physical abuse are two of the top contributors in increasing the chances of sex trafficking. It says Black girls are more likely to experience sexual and physical abuse than their racial counterparts. Again, not surprising. So Black girls compared to other races of women are going to have higher amounts of it. It says women who experience partner violence pose a higher risk of being sex trafficked. Women who call the national hotline. And then here's another one. It says 36.9% were trafficked by their partners. So that is girls who get into these relationships, maybe with older men and maybe with someone who who knows the scenario. Nevertheless, these are girls who get in relationships with these people who end up actually trafficking them. Some of them are men. I'm sure some of them are women too. But over 1/3 of them are trafficked by people who are supposed to be their partners or the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Along with psychological and economic abuse, sex traffickers are likely to employ physical and sexual violence over women to maintain control, right? So again, there's manipulation tactics and coercion tactics to try to keep them stuck. So, okay, so now here's an interesting one. It says trafficking and trafficker relationship, because this is the one that I really want to focus on, which I think kind of ties all this together. It says research conducted in 2012 showed that around 85% of those who bought sex on the internet were white men. 85%. 85% of people who bought sex on the internet were white men. 85%. Sex trafficking is alive and well. Last I checked, the amount of offense increased, and the amount of those who are being drawn into it increased, and the ones who are disproportionately impacted by sex trafficking
are Black women. Young Black girls, young Black women are the most likely to get caught up and involved in sex trafficking right now, which is essentially sex slavery. Who are the primary clients of sex trafficking? This statistic suggests that it is white men, an overwhelming majority. White men are the ones who are going online buying these services. So, I mean, there's more on this, you guys. It talks about the foster care system and how that can really help. It also talks about, violence, different things. And then also how a lot of times Black girls are kind of seen as more adult, similar to Black boys, right? Black boys are oftentimes perceived as older than they actually are. So there's more to that if you guys kind of want to look at it. I can maybe put that down in the description. But my point is, if we're teasing out this question of whether or not white men are empowering Black women, whether or not a relationship with white men and Black women automatically leads to that of empowerment. I think that the evidence is overwhelming. The relationship historically has been exploitative. Today, that is still going on. So again, you can absolutely date and marry out and find love and have true love. Absolutely. Can we also not be unaware of what's going on? And let's not gaslight and act like there aren't people out there who still have really negative, old stereotypical ideas or views of Black people. Let's not act like that doesn't exist. And I'm like, I think the sooner somebody can accept that, then the easier it's going to be for them to navigate people who actually truly love them for them versus being fetishized. But unfortunately, because nobody wants to, a lot of people don't want to talk about that. It's unfortunate or uncomfortable to talk about that, especially if you're a Black woman, you want to expand your options. Like, you don't necessarily want to talk about the race thing. Like, you want to be more appealing to that other race. Like, it can create a lot of problems. So again, real quick recap. I personally do not have problems with interracial relationships if it's based upon true love. No problem. What I have a problem with is people talking about interracial relationships and pedestalizing it, fetishizing it, making it all weird, and then completely overlooking the historical ramifications and the reality of what is going on today, which is that the relationship between white men and Black men has been historically exploitative. And that is actually still going on today. That does not mean it's every person. That does not mean it's every situation. And that does not mean that people can individually be lovely people. I'm just saying, as far as systems are, the system that is currently operating, that relationship still is existing on some level. I showed you guys some examples of that. Not only just in Africa, some things that are actually going on and impacting the states. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, that I think there's one part, because I'm in California. I don't know if I can find that stat. I think there's one stat in there that was completely, I don't know, maybe it's another one. I'll find it later. But it was talking about with respect to California. I'm in California, and sex trafficking, I think, is like some of the highest here, which is one of the reasons I want to talk a little bit more about it. Yeah. So, because that's a whole other topic. Something I'm hoping to do. But again, guys, I just wanted to bring this up. I wanted to talk to you guys about it. I wanted to mention it because, like I said, not only is it not going anywhere politically, it's getting really hot and really heated. And to a certain extent, I think the nation is getting more polarized. And so while I certainly don't wish, I don't wish for a resurgence of racism. I don't wish for a resurgence of division between people just because of their ethnicity. I don't wish for that. Also, I know that there's some people who are hoping for that. There are some people who are hoping and pushing for an America that manifests destiny. That is their desire. And they are doing everything they can politically to try to make that a reality through policy, through different advertising, through some of these different trends that they're promoting. So it's like, also, I'm not aware of that. And sometimes, y'all, these dating things that we see online, they can be hecka cute and they can be hecka like cute and lighthearted, but it's like, y'all, it's real life out here. I just talked to a girl recently who, this was just yesterday. This is the saddest thing. A girl recently yesterday I was talking to who got sexually assaulted from a person she met online.
It's like people out here are living real life, having real life scenarios. So this is why, as much as I like things being lighthearted and having a good time, we also want to be really clear of what's going on here, because people are being impacted and people are getting hurt. And it's not fair to share one side of the story if you're not also willing to share the pros and the cons. That's what I like to do. So anyways, that is what I wanted to talk about. That's what I got. That is what I got. Thank you guys again. If you like what this is about, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. If I get enough support, I can open up the call lines for a bit. And if not, that's cool. I'll shut these things down and continue the live with the members only. Oh, that reminds me. Yeah, that reminds me. I know Malarkey's a member. I think sometimes we miss each other because you're like in the UK, but I'm planning on doing another members only live. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna do a quick break. If you guys want to have a talk for a few minutes on the call lines, I can open up and we can do that, but I got to get some support. So let's do a commercial break and then we'll go from there. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll be wrapping things up. Thank you for the super chat. Dragos or what is his chipping in either way. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if you're a member or not. I don't remember if you're a member. If you're a member, no worries. We'll be having another live soon. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. I do plan on covering more information with respect to sex trafficking because that is actively going on right now. And it's actively impacting Black folks. It's not talked about a ton, but it is happening beneath our nose. So come on, folks, let's add to the collection pot. We are viewers, not voyeurs. Share, like, subscribe, though. I appreciate you. Like I said, I don't stress over it. If I don't get the support, we don't have the call line. It's just that simple. Like I have other things to do. So, but I do appreciate you, Malarkey. I do appreciate you, members. I will follow up with the members only live. I owe you guys one because I still wanted to talk through some of what I did in Europe, in France, and my last live kind of acted a little funky. So I appreciate your continued support. Yeah, that's what I got. I will put the links in the description if you guys want to go back and review more about the sex trafficking. Also, the video that I shared with respect to Kenya. But, it's really clear. I mean, honestly, all this stuff is simple. Like, don't get caught up in the propaganda. Love who you love, but like, please be honest and realistic about what that means today. Don't have like your blinders on, and also understand what is going on. A lot of these TikTok, first of all, half these TikTok relationships, many of them are fabricated. You got people who are going online and like literally pretending to be in love because they're trying to make some money. So you got that. Then you have media out there which lies, and I think it has never been the friend of Black people, promoting stuff just to stir up division or promoting stuff just to have women be more confused, right? But the marriage stats are clear. Who's dating who is here. It feels like every couple of weeks I hear a new report coming out about Black women being complained that they're not getting attention from other men of other races. So men of other races have already spoken, and like I said, the relationship has not always been so good. So I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't come off as offensive or doesn't come off as me fear mongering, but I'm not trying to fear monger. I'm just trying to tell y'all to be cool and realistic. And if you're going to date out, cool, just be open with what that means. Understand racism is still real, and don't drop your guard, or don't just be like, just don't lose all common sense because the dude got some light skin. Okay. Like, don't lose the little sense that you got. Don't throw it away just because he got some quote unquote good hair. Like, don't do that because you may end up in a ditch. And I don't want to fearmonger. That is a bit fear mongering, but that's what happens. Okay, to some people, not everybody, but to some people. And I'm like, all it takes is a situation to be like, so don't do that. Yes, you do have crazy Black men out there too. Nobody is denying that. But most of us, I think, are more acclimated to our kind of crazy. And other people's kind of crazy. It's just different. Okay. And ultimately you just want to be safe. You want to be safe, and you want to use caution with no matter who it is. That's my ultimate goal. And don't pedestalize folks who ultimately actually have a documented history of like demeaning you. Like, don't do that. Like, love and respect yourself. And then you'll meet somebody who will love and respect you, whether he's inside of your race or not. But definitely don't go out here valorizing people or valorizing a culture who has historically demeaned yours. That's not a good idea. Okay. So that's what I got. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Oh, thank you for the 5. It says showing support. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys who showed some support. And I hope this was helpful. I hope, like I said, these were good enough sources. I know this is like really, really last minute, but I just wanted to get a few things out there and continue this conversation. This likely will come up again because interracial relationships and all that stuff, and the love for interracial, that stuff is not going anywhere. All right. Well, I think I'm going to sign off. I have some more work I want to do anyway. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will talk later. Okay. Peace out.